Hi, Horror Scholar here. I'm here on the first show of our webcast, and we're going to be talking about horror movies. The first show that we're putting on for you guys, we're going to talk about just basically horror in the decade 2000 to 2009. Basically modern horror. And by modern horror, we're meaning that we're going to talk about movies that aren't remakes. So we're not going to talk about Hills Have Eyes remake. We're not going to talk about Last House on the Left. We're not going to talk about movies that are Japanese ripoffs, like The Grudge, even though I thought The Grudge was good, or Pulse, if I dare say that. But we're going to talk about original horror movies, okay? How original, that's up for you to decide. All movies are ripoffs of something. All books are ripoffs of someone else's idea. But basically, we're going to be talking about original horror movies within the last 10 years. Okay? 2000 to 2009. Alright? So, first movie, starring Ashley Judd, Harry Connick Jr., and, my opinion, the great Michael Shannon. The movie called Bug, directed by William Friedkin. And you horror fans know William Friedkin directed the original Exorcist with Linda Blair and Jason Miller. This movie, I wanted to talk about it. I don't think it's the greatest horror movie to come out in the last 9-10 years, but I think it's one that has been downplayed and probably got really bad reviews. I thought it was pretty good. Came out in 2007. May of 2007, so about 2 years ago. Takes place in, I believe, Louisiana area, southern area. It's about a woman who's divorced from her husband. She meets this guy played by Ashley Judd. She meets this homeless guy played by Michael Shannon. And supposedly he just got out of the army or prison or something. And he's sort of this weird kind of guy, and she starts a relationship with him, and then her husband, who's Harry Connick Jr., or her ex-husband, he gets out of jail, he comes back, he doesn't like that she's seeing another guy, but, yeah, she doesn't like that she sees another guy, and then this whole thing happens where these bugs come into play. I don't want to talk too much about it because it gives it away, but it's a really good movie and I think you should check it out. Okay? On that note, let's move on to other movies that probably got better reviews than Bug did. But seriously, try to see Bug. Next I have the James Wan classic, well, not classic, but Dead Silence. Dead Silence came out in 2007, about 2 years ago. James Wan, of course, did the Saw movies. Really good movie. If you remember, if you're as young or old as I am, if you remember Goosebumps with the talking dummy, I think his name was Slappy. This movie's for you. It's about dummies, about ventriloquists. The first movie, the first 2 minutes of the movie, there's blood, there's gore, there's a killing. Lots of blood. I liked it. I thought it was good. I mean, it's really not, it's like I talked about before, it's not really an original idea, but I thought it was good for what it came out. The ending was pretty good. I thought it was a pretty good movie. The director did Saw, so it was a pretty good movie. I think you should check it out. Oh, Donnie Wahlberg's in it too, so that's a plus. Moving on to Eli Roth's Hostel. This came out 2005, 2006, somewhere in between. Came out winter of 2005, 2006, somewhere along there. This was a great movie. I remember going into the movie theater and getting chills when it started because I didn't know what to expect. I remember the trailer on TV and all over the internet. All you heard was slashing and screaming, and I just didn't know what to expect, and it was really good. It was one of the first times I ever heard about hostels. Hostels are these places in Europe, and we have them in the United States, that are really cheap hotels for people to stay at if they're traveling or backpacking through Europe, and that's what this movie is about. It's about two Americans who have just graduated college, or they're going into grad school or something like that, and they decide to take a trip across Europe, and they're meeting girls, and you see lots of nudity and lots of sex scenes, and it's just a really great, like, titty and gore fest. It turns out that they go to Slovakia, and they stay at a hostel, and they meet these hot girls, and they just get butchered. And everyone just gets butchered, and it's pretty cool. And I think you guys should check this one out too. Eli Roth directed it. I think Eli Roth is an amazing director. Hostel 2, not as good. I think that he had great intentions with Hostel 2, but Hostel 1 is really the better one. This is a great movie. Check this out too. Hostel, Eli Roth. Next one is the Greg McLean directed Wolf Creek. This is another movie that's really not talked about. It's really not an original idea either. It's about a couple of kids in Australia. They're going to another part of Australia, but they have to go through the outback. And their car breaks. Well, they're seeing like an asteroid or like a Grand Canyon sort of thing in Australia, and their car breaks down, and they meet this really creepy auto mechanic, and it's just another one of those movies that is just dark and creepy, and it just gives you the shivers. Like when you go out, you don't want your car to break down in the middle of the night or in a desolate place because this guy or some person might. It's just really good, and it's another one that's downplayed. I think it got bad reviews. Not a lot of people liked it, but supposedly it's based off of a true story. There was a trial, and I don't really know what happened, but I don't think much came out of it. But it's supposedly based off of a true story. I don't really remember too much about it, but check out Wolf Creek. Next, I have The Descent, directed by Neil Marshall. Another underplayed horror movie in the last decade. A lot of people are just talking about the remakes and the Japanese ripoffs, and not saying that they're not good movies, not saying that I don't love them, I don't like them, but we're talking about original horror movies in the 2000s. And this was another one that I thought was great. It's like an all-female cast. It's British or English, whatever you want to call it. It's about this bunch of girls, bunch of women. Oh, they're women, and they go away. I think they meet up once a year, and they go away and they do these adventurous activities. They go skydiving. They go they're like adventure seekers. So they decide this one year to go explore a cave. I forget what it's called, Spelunky or something. But they go exploring a cave, and turns out in the beginning of the film we find out that the main character, her family was killed in a car wreck. So these girls are her friends, and they're trying to cheer her up, and they're going on this adventure. And in the cave, they meet like these monsters, and it's just really creepy. And I thought it was a great film. I've seen it a few times, and I thought it was great. I think you should check it out. So, The Descent. And the ending's pretty cool, too. And I heard they're making a sequel, so check that out. I don't know what's going on with it, but check out The Descent. Next I have Rob Zombie's The Devil's Rejects. This is a must. It came out in 2005, summer of 2005. It's the sequel to Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses. Now, you might be asking, why am I showing a sequel? Usually sequels aren't as great as the first film. Yes, Devil's Rejects is a sequel to House of a Thousand Corpses, but you don't have to see House of a Thousand Corpses in order to enjoy Devil's Rejects. Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand